concentrate on sort of more guitar techniques like Andy Summers or the Fix, or, you know, like for the rhythm parts. And so it's an interesting job for him. And he's such a good singer and bass player as well, so he has all them, and songwriter. So he filled in that slot. And Lawrence Archer is the one that the pressure's on, because he's the 21-year-old, like, whiz kid guitar player, you know, that has to take on the legend of the other guitar players that I work with, you know, because I've worked with a few guitar players in my time. And of course there's the big bad wolf himself, myself, you know, so, you know, so it is a band, much more so than the solo, me, Philip and his band. At the moment we're using my reputation to get some publicity and stuff, you know, but I mean, when you come and see the band, I think it'll become fairly obvious that they're all very talented people.
I would have got the impression a few years ago, even though you had said you didn't really want to be a solo artist, that you might have sort of eased your way gently out of what Thin Lizzy were, done a bit of production work here, done a few solo albums here every so often, but stayed off the road and sort of mellowed out a little bit in some ways. And yet you said you wanted always some vehicle for the aggressive part of it, or whatever. Now, would it not have been possible? I mean, like Status Quo here a few weeks ago, and Francis Rossi was saying that look, they stopped touring, it's just going to be a studio band. Could you not have seen yourself do that, like just stay solo and stay low, say?
No.
You have to go out in a live rock band.
Like, I mean, Status Quo are one thing, you know, I mean, they're a great band, and you can knock them, but I won't. But they're not my cup of tea. I wouldn't put, like, a band like Lizzy and Status Quo in the same, you know, league together. You know, I do think that what Lizzy were doing was completely different than what,
sure,
even though there was elements that were the same. Yeah. So, but insofar as the solo career, it was always like as an alternative. When Lizzy got into a state that we you know, because Thin Lizzy got away with singles like Dancing in the Moonlight and Sarah, and they were equally as popular as, you know, the Jailbreaks and the Whiskies and even Whiskey, for example, is not like a heavy track, you know, like, whereas Status Quo's, to a certain extent, are very similar, apart from the really, like, off-the-wall ones that they come up with, you know. So I just thought, when Lizzy, though, towards the end of the career, just became an imitation of itself to a certain extent. It was almost as if we had to be heavy and it had to be dual lead guitars. And I mean, I'm talking about, this is what Scott's saying to me when he's saying he wanted to leave, and I just, everybody had to agree. We were becoming a parody of ourselves. And so, like with the, you know, with the solo stuff, I just had to do it as an alternative than going through this parody. But now I have a band that I can, okay, lead and be a member of. You know, I can try and influence it, you know, obviously a lot, but try and influence it so that I can do wherever I want, you know.
Well, like, if you take it that the very big break for Lizzy came with the Jailbreak in '76 and all that, and then right the next year, or the fact that same year, the whole New Wave thing happened as well, did you resent that you were always looked upon as sort of the acceptable face of hard rock for the New Wave?
No, I didn't. Because I couldn't associate with I mean, well, a lot to do with the New Wave, especially in the early days with the punk thing. The guys couldn't play, sing, you know, write, anything, you know, so I wanted nothing to do with it. But by the same token, they had the same hopes, fears and dreams as any musician, you know. They wanted to succeed in their art, you know, so I never found them a threat. And at the time, a lot of people were going away, so to America and concentrating on America. And that's when Lizzy took the conscious decision to remain in Europe. And in the end, we paid the toll for that, you know, because we never actually cracked America as big as we cracked Europe.
Well, now this is one of the points then about Grand Slam. I mean, there's a certain type of music that just seems to creep in and is capable of cracking anywhere. And that type of music, like, is the sort of the harder or heavier side of rock, I think. I mean, take something like Def Leppard. I mean, in Britain, they're not particularly well known, even though they're from Britain. And yet they can sell 7 million copies of their last LP, Pyromania, in the States. No, do you think that Grand Slam could do in the States what Thin Lizzy didn't do?
Oh, yeah. Lizzy could have done it if they'd concentrated and sold their soul. I mean, the reason Def Leppard have done it, they've sold their soul, you know.
What do you mean?
There's certain promotion people and there's certain record labels and there's percentages that you give away to do in America. Now, what happened with Lizzy was we were at a state in our career where we had so much money that why go to America and lose money when you can tour Europe and make money? You know, like, so if you're managing the band, what do you do? So, whereas if you're a band like Def Leppard just starting off, it's better that you do a deal where you're giving away a lot initially, become famous, and then, you know, say, we're not paying any more. I mean, there's the great story of Led Zeppelin. After they did, I think, Led Zeppelin 2, their deal came up. It was like, it just fell into place for them. So Peter Grant went in and asked for an unheard of amount and unheard of amount of points for musicians. And the wars went on between the record companies, and eventually Peter Grant said, you either do it or we're going. And they signed it. But from that day on, they never sold as many records, you know, so it just showed you how it's manipulated over there. I mean, Tom and Motown moved from Detroit to L.A., and that had a lot to do with, you know, politics.
Well, you mentioned the last few days of Thin Lizzy there earlier on. Do you think that in the last few days they were sort of becoming very efficient as a hard rock band or as a melodic rock band as opposed to risky? And do you think, in other words, that Grand Slam might take a few risks?
In retrospect, I think the worst move I made was getting Snowy into the band. Because Snowy was a blues player, and because me and Brian had always liked the blues, we thought we could work with a blues player, and we thought we could teach him the aggression. But you can't teach people aggression if it's not natural, you know. And so he was slowing us down. But when Sykesy came in, the aggression was there. Now, Sykesy is a different player, you know. You can teach an aggressive player feel, because feel, you know, is your soul. So, you know, I mean, if you're experiencing things together, you can do it. And I think if we had found Sykesy, maybe, you know, because he was bringing the band back to life again, you know, he was really doing a lot. But it was too late by then. I mean, we'd call the show.
I presume in no way you're casting any sort of a personal thing on Snowy, and that he was the nicest bloke you could meet.
No, he's great. I mean, number 6 hit single. He's a great blues player, you know. Like, no, you know, I'm just.
Were you aware of the fact that even on stage that Snowy White, I don't know how many times I saw Snowy White with Thin Lizzy, but he just didn't look right at all. He just didn't seem to be into it the same way, no matter how much he could play.
Yeah, well, eventually I did, because I had to edit a video, you know, and we just kept looking for shots where,
you know, show Snowy.
I mean, he's a great guy, though. Yeah. He's a lovely fellow.
All right, listen, I think it's about time we played a track. This is Grand Slam, and this is a track called That track there is called Crime Rate.
For the moment, you know. So, but we got some really good ones ready to go. So, see, the whole point of trying to get the band together, first and foremost, was, you know, all the bands around us, whether they're all like pretty boys or wearing makeup, or, you know, and they make good demos and they get a deal and they live happily ever after till, you know. And I think the last sort of major band that, like, impressed me as a live act, apart from Police and Dire Straits, you know, like, them type of bands, they were live entities before they actually, well, and I just thought that should be the idea of the band. I mean, initially the band was going to be called Slam Anthem.
Slam Anthem.
But the Evening Herald changed that, and we're now called Grand Slam, so thanks, the Evening Herald.
But like, do you think then that, like I do, that probably with the exception of say 74, 75, the pop music is in just about its worst state ever at the moment? With this sort of like, I mean, there's no such thing as paying dues. Not that that's a bit of a cliche. You shouldn't pay your dues and go up the M1 and
yeah,
and
no,
the
you
transit
get
and
what you deserve. All these guys like flying up the charts and be flying out of them as quick, you know.
But do you think there's a bit of feeling gone, a bit of technique that you can only really get from sort of?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people say to me like, "Boy George," you know. By George, I can't see it. You know, I really just can't see it with that guy, you know. And yeah, but somebody like Howard Jones, who makes great, you know, I mean, he obviously couldn't do all that stuff live. You know, it's a recording art. He makes fantastic records. I mean, I'm really knocked out with the production and stuff. But like, Boy George makes, I mean, Boy George is a great pop star, you know. It's just
the best.
But I thought Mark Bolan was a better one, you know, and he wrote better lyrics, and more class. It's the word is class we're looking for here in the Republic.
Well, then, what about lyrics of Thin Lizzy towards the end? I mean, did you ever sort of think? I thought in the last few Lizzy bits, you went for the quick rhyme rather than what I would associate a good writer, which was Phil Lynott. Say, and like for instance, if you ever look back on your book, The Collected Works of Philip Lynott, and said, hey, you know, that's better. You know, like, did you ever want to get back in it? Like, the solo albums brought that out more than the last few Lizzies, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I thought the solo efforts, there was better lyrics on a couple of them. In general, I'd either write a brilliant lyric. You see, when you get popular, I just thought, you just wait for the inspiration, unless there's, and then there's demand. So, if the inspiration comes, then you write really good. And if it doesn't, then you write to demand. And you can lose it. You can fall into the trap of just becoming lazy, you know, because you're not hungry, you know. So, and I found that, you know, a lot of the Lizzy ones, I wasn't, but there was some of them where I like, to me, The Sun Goes Down, you know, whereas it mightn't be fantastic, you know, if you just wrote it out, the atmospherics that I create in The Sun Goes Down, everybody feels the same eerie feeling when they listen to the lyric in that. Ode to Liberty, I thought was a nice piece of lyrics. Here, I'll tell you what I think is good about me. You know what I mean?
Well, then what about other things that are undoubtedly good about you, and there's a handful of people who can always recognise that? Things like, for instance, the amount of work you've done for other people, like when you come back to Dublin in particular, the amount of things you're prepared to do for people, the amount of demos you're prepared to listen to, or people you're prepared to talk to, or out of the phase you're prepared to help out, or, you know, the sort of, you know, I don't know, Terry Woods even years ago, lots of things you've done throughout.
Work with Terry again.
Are you?
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Just taking all that, do you think there's a lot of people just say, for God's sake, if Philo's back in Dublin all the time, he's obviously not doing anything at all, you know? I mean, that a lot of people don't appreciate all the stuff that you have done, that a lot of musicians who do make it very big never bother their burning to do afterwards. Don't say just yeah or no.
No, I mean, like, I'm a musician, which means working in music. I mean, I can't come to Dublin and just sit around and drink and be merry, you know, because actually I'm a very sad person. I think when I come over, obviously I'm going to mix with musicians, and rather than, you know, talk about my favourite subject like myself, like I try and get interested and keep my ear to the ground about what's going on over here. And like everybody I got involved with are people that I would get excited over. You know, like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I've done that hasn't been, me and Paul Brady did a track together, which I think is brilliant. I've done, you know, there's lots of stuff I do. So I just like to be involved in music, you know, like, and so it's just a natural extension of what I do anywhere else in the world. It's not particularly because I'm coming back to save Ireland, you know what I mean? Like the Irish music business. But I do know the power of that I made it in England, so therefore they pay homage to anybody who's made it in England. you know, we'll give it a more, more of a chance. So I do try and cast my vote with the good ones, but I don't mind casting my vote with the bad ones as well, though, because I'm doing it for my own pleasure, not for whoever.
Well, what about a lot of people, say, who were famous in bands for years? People like, say, you're 10 years after Alvin Lee types, or George Harrison with the Beatles, any one of these types, who then went on to do something.
Pick somebody contemporary.
Let's pick somebody contemporary. Well, I can't, because that's the point. See, what I'm trying to say is that if somebody was really famous in a band, and they said, like you said earlier, well, you're getting a bit of publicity for a Grand Slam because you're Phil Lynott, or you'll definitely get the first few rungs of the ladder because you're Phil Lynott. I mean, what about the opposite to that? Like, that so many people who have been in big bands got onto some solo things and they just became who after that? I mean, people never heard.
It probably happened to me. I mean, the Philip Lynott thing has been milked so many times. I mean, I feel like the boy who cried wolf, because like a couple of times I came over on the solo tour and I was just bored sitting around in England. I just wanted to come over and do some solo dates. Now that I'm like unemployed and trying to get a band together and really want people to come and see this new band, like I'm out there with brown trousers, I'm like working really hard, sort of to try and get people to come and see this. But because I've said come and see this so many times, just to make the whole thing run economically, I feel like the boy who's cried wolf sometimes, when it doesn't happen. But the whole point is that to a certain extent, let it be understood, I'm using Ireland as much as, like, I come here to experiment with the acts so I can go away and then have it together. Like, so when we go to England, like after the SFX gig, and the SFX gig should by right be the best gig we do, because, I mean, the whole thing is to prepare for that one. And there's a couple of record companies going down for that one. And then we go off and we do some dates in England, and we do a couple at the Marquee. And that's the first time I'll be, like, doing a lower standard of gig than I did with Lizzie, in England. So I'm used to the idea, but the whole point is that to a certain extent, like, whereas we're a guinea pig, we're guinea pigs for the audience at the minute, they're also guinea pigs for us, if you know what I mean. But I think that should be the interesting point, because there is a fine set of musicians, so therefore the experiments could actually be better than the results, if you know what I mean.
Okay, well, that gig you mentioned about the SFX, that's this coming Thursday night. The Parkway in Limerick is tomorrow night, and on Wednesday in between, that's Sir Henry's in Cork as well. So, Phil, that's more or less, I think we're going to just play this last track. Just one thing, what do you think in the last few years has been sort of the biggest thing that has changed your life? I mean, do you think having kids and those songs that we heard on those solo albums is probably the biggest thing that's happened to you?
No. It's the biggest thing that happened to me. Read about it in the news of the world next week.
Back with a bang. All right, well, listen, Phil Lynott from Grand Slam, thanks very much for dropping in, and we'll see you next time as well. Good luck. This is the last track. Well, it's the second one we've got here on a tape. A demo, I must say, a demo. Yeah. This is called one of those demo tracks from Grand Slam. That's called 19, and those dates again with Drive Shaft in support. The Parkway in Limerick tomorrow, Sir Henry's on Wednesday in Cork, and on Thursday, Grand Slam at the SFX. And thanks to Phil Lynott, or Phil Lynott, whichever you prefer, for dropping in to say hello to us live in the programme. This is Radio 2. It's 8 o'clock.